Texas Senator Ted Cruz is a but it's not for the reason that you think. Here's why. First, the backstory that makes Bernie Madoff look like an honest man. Ted Cruz was valedictorian of his high school, graduated cum laude from Princeton, and magna cum laude from Harvard. Weird. I thought the only way for Ted Cruz to cum laude was while watching incest porn. We'll get to that later. Ted Cruz, unlike GED terrorist Lauren Boebert or racist dropout Steve King, is not stupid or uneducated. He's just an asshole. Before Ted Cruz ran for Senate, he was a lawyer, where he supported the NRA, helped impeach Bill Clinton, and represented future Speaker of the House John Boehner. Cruz also got an early start in voter suppression, defending gerrymandering and representing the Florida recount. If there was a political story that made you feel kinda icky, Ted Cruz was part of it. Cruz also showed his utter lack of moral compass early. Under Texas's awful 3 strikes law, a man was sentenced to 16 and a half years in prison for stealing a calculator from Walmart. After 7 years of the sentence, it was discovered that it was actually the guy's second strike, not third. Even knowing that, Ted Cruz declined to vacate the sentence and said justice is being done, because Ted Cruz is an asshole. And then, something even worse happened. When ruining the life of one Texan at a time wasn't enough for him, Ted Cruz ran for Senate as a Tea Party candidate. Remember the Tea Party? Those hypocrites that wanted to get rid of government intervention except when it came to the freedoms that they disagreed with. So what did the guy who was possibly the Zodiac Killer do once elected? Cruz led the 2013 government shutdown, filibustering for 21 hours straight, even reading children's books. Which does make sense because those are written at the reading level of many of his voters. The effects of the Cruz shutdown were devastating. It cost America $2 billion in productivity, 120,000 jobs, and workers were furloughed a combined 6.6 million days. After it was an abysmal failure, Cruz denied any involvement in the shutdown that he led, because of course he did. But wait, it gets worse. Cruz is generally a no-show in the Senate. He missed 66% of Public Armed Services Committee hearings, 67% of Judiciary Committee hearings, and 88% of Commerce Committee hearings. The only way to get Ted Cruz to show up for anything is to tell him that he has a chance at profiting off of harming poor people, or that there's a half-naked stepmother in the next room. But we'll get to that later. Ted Cruz harms poor people for the benefit of rich people constantly. He sponsored a bill that would expand oil drilling offshore and onshore and even on reservations, pretty much everywhere there's oil except for his dumb hair. The bill would have also gutted the EPA's ability to regulate greenhouse gases, which was probably a favor to his friend Tutti Giuliani. Ted Cruz has repeatedly forgotten to disclose financial relationships, including about $1 million he got from Citibank and Goldman Sachs, the company his wife worked for. Cruz also sponsored a bill to eliminate limits on campaign contributions. Being self-serving is the one thing that Ted Cruz has been consistent on. Even his inconsistence is born out of being consistently self-serving. When Ted Cruz started his presidential run that eventually led to losing to a reality TV star, he was cited as running on a platform of constitutional originalism by analyst Jeffrey Toobin. Jeffrey Toobin. How do I know that name? Quick side note, constitutional originalism was actually a movement predominantly used by segregationalists to combat the civil rights movement, because of course it was. But even if you are one of the dummies that does agree with originalism, Ted Cruz is only an originalist when he has something to gain from it. But wait, it gets worse. Cruz was opposed to appointing a Supreme Court justice in the last year of her presidency, until he wasn't. Cruz was all for the ability to impeach a president, until he wasn't. Cruz was vehemently opposed to Donald Trump, until he wasn't. Cruz was against federal aid for disaster relief, until he wasn't. Cruz was opposed to a president taking military action in Syria, until he wasn't, and then until he was again. And despite Ted Cruz's voting record and senior thesis supporting the distinction between states' rights and federal, he found a way around that also. As a Texas senator, he led the movement to try to overturn Pennsylvania's electoral votes, because states' rights only matter to Ted Cruz when he thinks those states are right. His hypocrisy is more vulgar than his browser history. Ted Cruz will do anything if he stands to gain from it, even sell out his own family. After he lost to Trump in the 2016 primary, and refused to endorse him at the Republican National Convention, Cruz said the following: "I am not in the habit of supporting people who attack my wife and my father." Cruz was clearly angry and waited a long time before finally endorsing Trump. That long time was 62 days. Just 62 days! That's not even as long as the 3 times the Republicans selfishly shut down the government. Cruz again threw his family under the gas-guzzling bus this year. Texas got a once-in-a-generation winter storm that also happened 10 years ago and will happen again soon. The climate change-denying Ted Cruz went to Cancun, abandoning his constituents and even his family dog. Seriously. He skipped town and left his dog behind in a blizzard. And then, when people were upset about it, Cruz blamed his 10 and 12-year-old daughters. That's how you know that dogs are capable of unconditional love, because one can tolerate Ted Cruz. Even noted GOP asshole John Boehner, who Cruz once represented, called him Lucifer in the flesh, which is totally unfair. That assumes whatever human suit Ted Cruz is wearing is actual flesh. Is there a limit to Ted Cruz's hypocrisy? No. Cruz takes such a hardline stance against immigration that he was the one senator opposed to a motion to discuss what to do about children of immigrants. Ted Cruz was born to a Cuban-Canadian immigrant father in Calgary. When it comes to morality, Cruz's originalism also extends back to the Bible. He's opposed to both same-sex marriage and even civil unions. He said that marriage is between one man and one woman. But of course, if that woman were to remarry, then want to have sex with her stepson, who are we to judge? All these incest porn jokes are referring to the time that Ted Cruz's Twitter account liked a pornographic tweet. Cruz said it wasn't him and blamed a staff member for doing it, because of course he did. And let me be clear, I'm not kink shaming, because unlike some of the porn that Ted Cruz watches, I am not a gaping asshole. I stay out of consenting adults' personal lives, but Ted Cruz doesn't. This is the same walking mullet that once defended a ban on sex toys. Despite running as a Tea Party candidate and advocating for hands-off policies on the environment, gun rights, campaign finance, and everything that benefits him, Cruz is for government intervention when it comes to anything about your sex life, from contraception to healthcare to who people are attracted to. But why? Because this Puritan pearl-clutching act of his drives voters, and voters drive power, and power drives money. And while we're discussing laying pipe, let's talk about how Ted Cruz was against foreign pipelines, but all for allowing oil, coal, and gas to operate anywhere they can in the States. So much so that the League of Conservation voters gave him a national environmental score of just 3%. 3%! What is this, the amount of times that Ted Cruz shows up for a committee meeting? Why would someone who allegedly believes in small government be so interested in government helping oil, coal, and gas companies? Could it be that they have given him over $2.5 million in campaign contributions? I tell you, I'm completely stumped. Every last one of Cruz's votes follows the same pattern. What will make him the most amount of money? That is why Ted Cruz might be the worst person in government. Cruz's horrible positions are born from being a cold, calculated man who doesn't care who he harms, even his own daughters, as long as it helps himself. Still don't believe me? During Georgia's special election, when the GOP Senate majority hung in the balance, Ted Cruz went on a fundraising tour to help himself. Despite using the names of David Perdue and Kelly Loeffler in his ads, he kept the money. Because that is what Ted Cruz does, because that is who Ted Cruz is. But what do I know? I should stick to comedy. Thanks for watching. For more videos, follow me and Gaff About This. If you enjoyed this video, check out my latest Stick to Comedy video right here. Subscribe to my YouTube channel here, and check out my live streams here. You can join my Patreon at patreon.com/Steve Hofstetter, and see my live touring schedule on my website, stevehofstetter.com. Thanks for watching.